Alright, so in this video I wanted to talk about limited palette options and just give you some simple ideas that you can experiment with very limited palettes, which means that you don't use a lot of pigments. So the great thing about it is that, first of all, it's not going to be expensive because, well, you can just use like 3 basic pigments most of the time, and well, you can have a lot of fun with it, and it's going to create a natural mood. Like, you know, sometimes you do a painting and you question whether or not this pigment will go well, or you wonder, well, if I use this color and this color, isn't that gonna break the harmony? Well, you're not gonna worry about it with these very limited palette choices, and you're gonna focus on your brushwork. You can focus on creating the atmosphere that you really want to achieve. So that's a great thing, that's a great benefit. So the first very basic limited palette is also the most famous, is the grisaille palette, which is very simple, is just titanium white, ivory black, and raw umber. So you can achieve things like these. You have the full range of values. You can alternate warm and cool. The ivory black will bring the cool element, and the raw umber will bring the warm element. In every limited palette, you need to have a warm pigment and a cool pigment, even if it's just relative, because a raw umber is not specifically warm. I mean, it's warmer than ivory black, and ivory black is not specifically cool, it's cooler than raw umber. And you can play with these, and like, you just have to move the cursor between ivory black, raw umber, and you can create some cool effects with grisaille. It's especially good for beginners to start painting with monochromatic subjects. Like grisaille is going to be just so much better. You're going to get used to the brush handling, you're going to get used to the material, how you want to paint, what your style actually is, and not worry about color at all. The next combination is this one. It's a very simple one as well. 3 colors only: titanium white, burnt sienna, and ultramarine blue. So you can see that you can achieve some quite realistic portraits with these, and you can. It ranges from blue. You can get some pretty dark color, because the ultramarine blue is ultramarine blue deep is a pretty dark pigment, so you can reach very dark values, and of course you can alternate warm and cool and reach all sorts of effects. And because the burnt sienna is very close to the actual complexion of most human skins in normal light conditions, you can achieve some interesting results. So this sketch, as well as this one, were achieved with this technique. I think this one as well. Don't know what it's doing here. It's not finished. Well, all right. So yeah, you get the point. Another nice combination is the one that I used for this landscape, imaginary landscape. It's burnt umber, ultramarine blue deep. I always use ultramarine blue deep, and titanium white. Well, you're gonna get some things like these. Well, it can be a lot more brown if you use just a bigger proportion of burnt umber. I just didn't need that much brown in this painting, so you can just get a very, very broad range of colors, and if you just use them equally, they can neutralize each other, and you can get a very, very neutral black. Actually, many people use these 2 pigments to create blacks instead of ivory black. And it works really well, because you can very warm and cool as well, so it's always a good thing. So the idea of super limited palettes is that you don't always need the traditional white, red, blue, yellow, and brown, black. You don't necessarily need all these pigments, and sometimes you can take one off and create some interesting things. Another principle is that you can make every pigment your primary. Let me give you an example. I'm going to pick my pigments. Okay, with a set of 3 pigments, and just because it's 3, it doesn't work that well with more pigments. You can imagine that, well, I'm going to use a warm, a cool, and like basically white. You might need something to create a dark color as well that you can add to this palette, but basically the core of the limited palette would be this. Like, let's say I'm going to use this turquoise blue as my cool color, and I'm going to use this cadmium orange as my warm color, and I'm going to mix the two to create a variety of mixtures, and the titanium white is going to be used to create the core. To that you can add maybe something to darken it. That could be an idea, and you can create the palette, but you create the palette around these two. You can also have something like very warm, so this yellow ochre would be the cooler element, and this one would be the warmer element, so it's going to create something very, very warm, very orangey, but that might be something interesting. This cadmium red and yellow ochre. You can use something like Venetian red and English blue, for instance. Of course, all these ideas are not going to give you realistic colors. They are going to give you colors that work together, and if you don't add any more pigments to these sets, they are going to harmonize because they are forced to harmonize. They cannot do anything else. So as long as you control the values, they are going to work together. Let me know what you think. Do you like painting with a lot of pigments? Do you enjoy limited palettes? Let me know in the comments. And before I go, I wanted to thank you everyone for the support. I recently asked you to share my videos, share about the practical guide to oil paintings, and many people I've helped, so thank you very much. The success of the practical guide is very important to the channel, so I really thank you for that. And yeah, as always, thank you very much for watching this video. Don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button. And I'll see you for the next one. Until then, have fun painting.